Do you think people have the right priorities in life nowadays, Celia?
In part 4, the examiner may ask you a specific question or may ask you both a question. In this case, it doesn't matter who starts.
It depends which kind of people. Those people who have so much money, they just want to have everything they want. And I think they don't have the right priorities because they are not thinking about what comes next. And I think it should be better to think about the future and to the children that are going to grow up in 20 years, 30 years, than just have everything now.
In part 4, the questions are more abstract. Here, Celia thinks for a second, then answers with good examples and complex language. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers to the questions in part 4.
Do you agree?
Maybe repeat the main question again.
Sylvan asks for the question to be repeated. Remember, the examiner may ask you what you think after your partner has answered a question. You should always listen to what your partner says so you can add to their ideas or disagree.
Do you think people have the right priorities in life nowadays?
No, not really, because there are so many things out there, and you have to. It's difficult to prioritize, and as you say, it's difficult to give that to, or important to give that to your children, and that's a skill you have to learn for your life because it's a life skill. It's important. Yeah.
Sylvan is using good language, but he hesitates. If you hesitate too much, it can be difficult to follow what you're saying.
Some people say that certain jobs are overvalued and overpaid. What's your opinion?
It can be, yeah. I mean, the difference between those jobs is horrible. If you have a look what a CEO, a manager can earn, not only the salary, also the bonuses at the end of the year, which is crazy in my opinion, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. And it depends in which country it is. If it is here in England, the salaries are not going to be the same as, I don't know, in China or in France or in Switzerland. And it doesn't change the fact that some of them are going to be overpaid everywhere, no matter which country.
Here, Celia adds extra information to what Sylvan has said. This is good. In part 4, you can always add your own ideas, even if the examiner has asked your partner the question.
Do you think people's expectations of what is achievable are too high nowadays?
It might be, yeah.
Why?
For example, if you apply for a job, they expect you to have a lot of experience in that job, but how can you have this experience when you're 21 years old and you cannot have 7 years experience in that job, for example. So the expectation is really high sometimes.
I agree, and not only for jobs, but also for things like sports and competition. They all want to be the fastest and so on. So yeah, and then they use drugs, for example, and it's not the right things to do. But they think that it's going to help to achieve something that in fact is not necessarily achievable. Yeah.
They discuss this question well. If you engage in discussing each question, you're more likely to use a range of language and show what you can do.
So, do you agree that life is easier now than it was in our grandparents' day?
I can't really tell you, but I think it's not easier. Because as you said, to be the best, to become the best is very, very difficult because there are so many competitors around you.
Sylvan picks up on what Celia said earlier. He says, as you say. This is a good interaction technique.
We have now all the problems that our grandparents had at their time, during their childhood and so on.
It's different. It's maybe, I cannot tell if we have more problems, but different problems now.
Yeah. some people say it's only possible to be happy if you have a lot of money. What's your opinion?
I completely disagree, because it is true that money helps to be happy, but it's not the only things in life. There is, I don't know, friendship, love, family, and so many things that you can enjoy even if you don't have a lot of money.
Celia uses stress and emphasis well here. I completely disagree. It is true that this is very natural use of stress.
So, yeah.
How about you?
You cannot buy everything, exactly. And also I believe happiness can stop somewhere in a salary, but it doesn't make any difference if you earn 100 more, without 100,000 more in a year, for example. So there's a limit, of course.
And what part does the media play in people's expectations of life nowadays?
Well, they can manipulate you in a way with telling things that are maybe not true, or given false, or just lead the public to a wrong direction, for example. They have a lot of power, I believe.
Yeah, and with all this advertisement too, and also those reality shows where they show those people who have a lot of money and do so many things that may be silly in fact, and you might want to to try to do the same, but in fact it's not such a good idea. So it's not necessarily a good effect on people. No.
Oh, thank you. That's the end of the test.